My husband said he didn't have time for my prenatal appointments, but he was lying in bed watching the World Cup with my best friend. My best friend doted on me endlessly, indulging my celebrity crushes, cooking my favorite dishes, and even becoming my child's godmother. And in the end, she slept with my man. What's Chris Chu so busy with? He's always swamped with work, no time for his wife and child? After my final prenatal checkup, I met my mother and immediately heard her complaining again. It's almost 9 months, and he's still letting you go to your appointments alone? Men are all unreliable. The hospital corridor was bustling with people. My mother's loud words, aimed at Chris Chu, made me feel embarrassed. She touched my increasingly round belly, her eyes unable to hide her displeasure. It's okay, Mom, he's on a business trip. He was supposed to come back early to go with me, but I told him not to worry. I consider myself to be in good health. Besides more severe anemia lately, other pregnancy symptoms were negligible. Most of the time, the baby in my womb was well behaved and didn't bother me much. I'm naturally independent. If I can do something myself, I don't want to ask anyone for help, even those closest to me. Chris Chu had a love-hate relationship with this trait of mine. Sometimes he appreciated my trust and independence, but other times he wanted me to rely on him and act a little spoiled. Just as I finished speaking, his call came through. My mother helped me sit down to rest, then turned to gather my medical papers, no longer looking at me. Chris Chu asked about my health with great concern, saying he was still in City D, but his work was almost done. He'd have dinner with a client and then catch the last high-speed train back to City B. Is Elaine Lin back too? Is she doing okay? Does your project suit her? Elaine Lin was Chris Chu's and my childhood friend, and my best friend from elementary school until now. This year, she had just transferred to Chris Chu's project department, but the two of them had never gotten along. According to Elaine, since they were children, she'd never liked Chris Chu's humble and pretentious demeanor. As for Chris Chu, he couldn't stand Elaine Lin's arrogance and aloofness. Chris Chu spoke in his familiar, less than friendly tone. Your wife has already spoken. Do you think I'd dare do otherwise? He then turned and began to whine. Hey, what's with you? Can't you care more about your husband? It's always Elaine Lin, Elaine Lin. We exchanged a few more playful words. I wished him a safe trip before hanging up. My mother, suppressing her anger, helped me to the parking lot to get the car. On the way home, she continued to grumble. My ears were almost numb from her nagging. Never had I wished for Chris Chu to come home faster to save me from this situation. However, as the car stopped at a red light, I idly scrolled through my phone and saw a strange sight. A minute ago, Elaine Lin had just posted something on social media. Under dim lighting, her hands were tied with a necktie, and she lay on a bed in a hotel room with white sheets. The scene was alluring, and below the picture, there was a caption, on a business trip, watching soccer, beating monsters. I was about to leave a comment, surprised that after all these years of being reserved, she had suddenly broken free in one night, when the tie in the picture stunned me. It was a gray and blue striped tie with a bright red heart, a limited edition, identical to the birthday gift I had given Chris Chu. Amy Chan, I told you to use your phone less, aren't you afraid of going blind? My mother's voice echoed in my ears again, but I pretended not to hear. I immediately clicked on Elaine Lin's profile picture to enter her personal page, but that post had already disappeared. It was as if nothing had happened. I must have been hallucinating. The car started moving. My belly suddenly cramped, my vision blurred, and then I gradually lost consciousness. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed, receiving a blood transfusion. Outside the window, it was already dark. Lately, I hadn't been eating well, and my lunch was sparse, causing my anemia to relapse. I had dared to claim good health, but seeing that shocking photo, I hadn't expected to be frightened into fainting. Opening my eyes, I saw my mother sitting there with a worried expression, her eyes red. I gently placed my hand on my rounded belly, a sharp pain in my heart. You always make me worry. You married into a family that wasn't well off, and you were pregnant in less than a year. I raised you alone, hoping you'd marry a wealthy husband and live a more comfortable life, but you." My mother's familiar complaints echoed daily, making me incredibly uncomfortable. I knew she worried about me suffering. Since my father passed away, she had gone through too many hardships raising me alone. When I first started dating, my mother disapproved of Chris Chu's family background, fearing that I would suffer if I married him. But in reality, I'm a brand design team leader, and my income is quite good. Chris Chu isn't bad either. He's been promoted step by step, received raises, and now independently leads a project team. Our family has also upgraded our car and bought a new house. The baby in my womb was about to arrive. Everything was clearly going in the right direction. If it hadn't been for that bizarre social media post, I would have just dismissed my mother's words as useless nagging. Our family isn't as well off as Elaine Lynn's, so don't worry, but if Chris Chu is so busy that he's never home, even when you're sick and uncomfortable and he can't be there, what's the use of earning so much money? I had heard these words countless times, but at this moment, they felt even more bitter. If I wasn't hallucinating before I fainted, what was that strange picture? All these years, what was the animosity between Chris Chu and Elaine Lynn? I just wanted to call them immediately. I didn't like beating around the bush, I just wanted to ask directly. As soon as I picked up my phone, the hospital room door suddenly pushed open. Chris Chu, pulling his suitcase, rushed in. The photo had been deleted, leaving no evidence, but I didn't want to let the misunderstanding linger. I asked directly, "Where's the striped tie I gave you?" "The tie?" Chris Chu was surprised for a second, then calmly walked towards me and gently embraced me. I don't know if I was being sensitive, but I detected a faint scent of cigarette smoke on him, mixed with a hint of women's perfume, a scent I wasn't familiar with, so faint it was hard to detect. But Chris Chu had clearly quit smoking before I even started trying to conceive. "It's in the suitcase, what's wrong, honey? Are you still feeling uncomfortable?" I weakly pushed him away, my eyes, without my realizing, gradually welling up with tears. "Take it out for me to see." Chris Chu frowned slightly but said nothing. He put down his suitcase and pulled out the tie I had given him for his birthday. It was a gray and blue striped tie, neatly rolled, with the red heart still perfectly in place. There was nothing unusual about it. It seemed as if that social media post had just been a nightmare I had experienced. Chris Chu and I looked each other directly in the eyes. He seemed very calm, making me feel like a clueless fool at that moment. Since becoming pregnant, I've rarely lost control of my emotions. My work and team always push me forward. Chris Chu's busyness has forced me to cultivate more patience, and my mother's repetitive worrying inadvertently put pressure on me. Deep down, a voice seemed to remind me not to lose control, not to let myself be affected by hormones. Only at night, during gentle fetal movements, when I looked at Chris Chu's hand wrapped around my waist during sleepless nights, did I feel a vague anxiety. I used to fear not being able to balance work and children, worried about my changing figure, and even fantasized that the person lying next to me might change his mind. "Chris Chu, I told you, what's so special about that tattered tie that you have to examine it so closely?" My mother couldn't help but scold him again. "Can you take care of your wife first? A huge pregnant belly, fainting from anemia, and you're always on business trips. I think you only care about making money." "Sorry, Mom, it won't happen again. I've asked the company. I won't be traveling for the next few months. From now on, I'll always be with Amy. Don't be angry, it's not worth harming your health." Chris Chu tightly held my hand, the warmth from his palm spreading to my hand, his eyes filled with worry. "Sorry, Amy, for making you uncomfortable." I was a little emotional, and I also wondered if I had seen things incorrectly. Just then, my belly suddenly moved distinctly. Chris Chu saw it too, his eyes filled with the excitement of an expectant father. He gently placed his hand on my belly and talked to the baby. "Daddy's home late. Sorry, you and Mommy worked so hard." My eyes suddenly stung with tears. Chris Chu had quietly worked hard for this family, enduring quite a bit. Our marriage wasn't easy, perhaps I shouldn't have doubted him. Just as my hand reached his back, Elaine Lynn rushed into the hospital room. She completely ignored the closeness between Chris Chu and me, rushing straight toward me, her face genuinely worried. But as she got closer, I smelled that faint scent mixed with cigarette smoke from before. My earlier sensitivity seemed to have found its answer. "Amy, why are you anemic again? Your face is so pale. I told you to eat on time." Elaine Lin frowned, looking at me for 2 seconds before turning to greet my mother, her gaze at Chris Chu as cold as ever. "Mom, Elaine, you came all the way here this late? Hurry up and help me manage this girl, Amy, she makes me worry all day long." My mother started nagging relentlessly again. Elaine Lin's face remained cold, but her hands were very gentle. As usual, she lightly pinched my ear, not forgetting to give me a glare. A mixed feeling, hard to describe, suddenly welled up in my heart. My belly was big, my body heavy, and after fainting today, I truly felt exhausted. Tonight, for the first time, I didn't want to pretend to be strong anymore. Before me were 3 people who worried about me. Having someone to lean on, I should have felt content and happy. I truly hoped it was all just my overthinking. "Your hands are so cold, take this to warm them up." Elaine Lin snatched my hand from Chris Chu's, slipped a hand warmer into it, enveloping my hand in pleasant warmth. I looked up at her, my mind filled with tangled thoughts. In the past few months of my pregnancy, as Chris Chu grew increasingly busy, the person who spent more time by my side was Elaine Lin. She accompanied me to the hospital for prenatal checkups, helped me register, queued, and picked up prescriptions. She cooked red date porridge for me, worried about my severe anemia, and even researched special recipes for me. Before she transferred to Chris Chu's company, whenever he went on a business trip, Elaine Lin would arrive at my house on time, finding ways to take care of me with all sorts of delicious food. In my pregnancy diary, Elaine Lin appeared in almost every entry. Looking at Chris Chu, he had gotten up from beside me, bowed his head in silence, not exchanging a single glance with Elaine Lin. If it were before, their coldness and lack of communication wouldn't be strange, as they had never liked each other. But after seeing that photo, looking at them now, even without words, the silence between them emanated a strange, unnatural atmosphere. The post Elaine Lin suddenly deleted, and the faint, strange scent on Chris Chu, everything made me feel annoyed and confused. For the first time, I found Elaine Lin unfamiliar. For the first time, I didn't want to see her, and for the first time, I was afraid of losing her. Seeing that I wasn't well, Elaine Lin gave a few more instructions, telling me to rest well, then simply nodded at Chris Chu before leaving the hospital room. After she left, my mother couldn't help but meddle in other people's affairs. "Elaine Lin is grown up now, why doesn't she have anyone yet? There are so many wealthy ladies and rich kids at my spa, I should introduce her to a few good matches sometime." Before I could say anything, Chris Chu spoke first. "Mom, Elaine always has high standards, she won't look twice at those rich kids." He suddenly interjected, as if hitting a sore spot with my mother. "I'm talking about Elaine Lin, what does that have to do with you? You focus on your wife and child." I didn't want to get involved in the argument, but deep down, I vaguely wanted an answer. It's true Elaine has unique tastes, she's been different from me since childhood. "Chris, don't you think your student, Ray Su, is very suitable for Elaine? Why don't you try to set them up?" Before I finished speaking, Chris Chu immediately objected, "He's not suitable." My eyes gradually darkened, staring at Chris Chu, as if the answer I didn't want to face was slowly becoming clear. "Later. Right now, your health is most important. I'll call the nurse. I'll take you home in a bit." He seemed to realize something was wrong, clamped his mouth shut, and walked out of the hospital room. After saying goodbye to my mother, Chris Chu and I went home. We were silent the entire way. I pretended my body wasn't feeling well to hide my despair. I really didn't want to dig deeper into this matter. Even if Chris Chu was doing something behind my back, it absolutely couldn't be Elaine Lin. He held me in his arms when we got home. Chris Chu half knelt on the newly bought Ultraman rug, quietly helping me change my shoes. He even brought a basin of water to wash my face and hands, taking meticulous care of me as always. When he wasn't on business trips, Chris Chu was always attentive and considerate. His care was no less than Elaine Lynn's. Recently, he even suggested I quit my job, wanting me to become a full-time housewife, saying he could provide for me and our child. We had argued about it, though I knew he only wanted me not to struggle, worrying that I wouldn't be able to balance work and childcare. Before moving to City B, Elaine Lynn, Chris Chu, and I were neighbors in the same area and studied in the same elementary school class. When they were young, they never liked each other. Elaine never played with boys, and Chris Chu was a well-behaved, good student. Only I ran around, constantly going back and forth between them. Later, both my family and Elaine Lynn's family moved to City B. Chris Chu gradually became more distant in our lives. Then, my father died in a car accident, and my mother's temper became increasingly irritable. Meanwhile, Elaine Lynn's parents became increasingly successful in business, with no time to care for her. The two of us children could only rely on each other. My mother's beauty spa wasn't easy to run. She had to smile forcefully at clients outside and then vent her anger on me at home, sometimes complaining that I wasn't as good at studying as Elaine Lynn, other times blaming me for being obsessed with drawing instead of studying. But Elaine Lynn always stood by me, not only in front of my mother but in everything. She protected me. We were clearly completely different in tastes and preferences, but Elaine Lynn was always willing to indulge me. She followed the idols I liked, watched the movies I watched, ate my favorite dishes like pig intestines and snail noodles, scared away those who mocked me for not having a father, chased away the bullies, praised my paintings, and helped me improve my academic performance. Thanks to her encouragement, I bravely pursued my dream of becoming a designer. In college, Elaine Lynn went to study abroad, while I was accepted into the Fine Arts department of B University. During the days without her, I worked harder but also felt profoundly lonely. During a charity event in the final semester of my third year, I accidentally re-encountered Chris Chu, a long-lost friend. He was the event organizer, leading me to seek sponsorships, managing design work, and adjusting the plan. He always appreciated my proposals and supported my creative ideas. Finally, our team won a major award, and I also caught the attention of a prestigious company in the industry, receiving an internship offer. During busy times, he and I often reminisced about our foolish childhood memories and dreamed of a bright future together. Chris Chu's excellence and ambition attracted me, while his meticulousness and sincerity made me feel warm. I seemed to suddenly realize that I, too, could be loved by many people. After the charity event ended successfully, we held a celebratory party, and everyone went to sing karaoke. Chris Chu accompanied me, and many times he tried to hold my hand. In the karaoke room, I chose Yu Jiayan's Ultraman, saying I wanted to dedicate it to my Ultraman. Whoever likes me, whoever comes close to me, is still not as good as your gaze. I don't need you to save the world. I know sometimes you're sad too. It's just that they don't understand. Perhaps we can't be together until old age. But I will fly towards your cloud, bringing my greetings. It was my unspoken confession, and also my most sincere appreciation. I was grateful to him for appreciating me, encouraging me, lending me a hand on my journey to pursue my dreams, bringing light into my life when it was precarious and dim. When the song ended, he hugged me and confessed, asking me in front of everyone if I would agree to be his girlfriend. After my internship ended, I was kept on at my current company with a salary higher than the industry average. I shared the good news with Elaine Lynn. She was happy for me during our phone call despite the time difference. At the same time, Chris Chu also joined a large company, and soon became officially employed due to his abilities. On our anniversary, just as Elaine Lynn returned to the country, I dragged her to meet Chris Chu. After a toast, I introduced them to each other. But it seemed that even as adults, they still didn't get along. Chris Chu was aloof the entire time, and Elaine Lynn maintained her cold expression. I once asked Elaine why. She only said she didn't like the pretense of smart people like him but still wished me happiness. As for Chris Chu, he found her arrogant, a bit conceited. I didn't force them to be close, just let things be. Until Elaine Lin transferred to Chris Chu's company and joined the exact project team he was in charge of. Looking back now, perhaps that's when their relationship began to change subtly, but I didn't pay attention. A few months ago, when they returned from a business trip in City X, I went to the airport to pick them up. Chris Chu gave me a commemorative t-shirt, saying it was a gift for me. Looking at the chibi Ultraman figures on the shirt, my heart melted because they were so cute. He said he had one too, then pulled open his jacket to show me. There was a small Ultraman on his left chest. He whispered in my ear, sweetly, "I'm your own Ultraman." While we were having lunch, I went to the restroom and accidentally saw Elaine Lin take off her jacket, revealing the t-shirt underneath. On her left chest was a small monster, drawn right over her heart. At that moment, I felt something strange, but I couldn't pinpoint what it was. Elaine Lin just said she liked the shirt and didn't want to get in the way of my husband and my sweetness, so she casually chose a different design. So I didn't think any more of it. Now, looking back, I felt an uneasy churning in my stomach. Chris Chu next to me was sound asleep. I tried to suppress the discomfort, secretly slipped out of bed, took his phone, and went into the bathroom. The password was my birthday, 0507, so I easily unlocked it. I scrolled through his friend list, but found nothing unusual. Until I scrolled to the very bottom, in the hashtag group, I saw an ID with several blank spaces, then the name Little Monster. A strong premonition urged me to click on this person's profile. The gender was listed as male, but the friend permission stated cannot view this person's status and posts. I had once read an article online about how some boyfriends would block suspicious contacts on social media so their girlfriends wouldn't find out. My hands trembled as I clicked on this person's posts, and then a terrifying sight appeared, shocking me so much I couldn't forget it. The latest post, uploaded 6 hours ago. If I remembered correctly, I was sitting in my mother's car waiting at a red light then. Under dim lighting, a pair of hands tied with a necktie appeared on a hotel bed with white sheets. The scene was alluring, and below the picture, there was a caption, "On a business trip, watching soccer, beating monsters." The tie looked very familiar, gray and blue stripes with a red heart, a limited edition, identical to the one Chris Chu had taken out of his suitcase. I was completely stunned. It turned out Elaine Lin's post wasn't deleted, she had just posted it in the wrong place. That humiliating photo was still here, in her small account named Little Monster. My heart ached in waves. I continued scrolling down and discovered even more disgusting things. Little Monster's profile was like Elaine Lin's alternate world, containing dark secrets and a completely unfamiliar side of her. A cigarette at the company's fire exit with teasing words, hot kisses in the underground parking lot, even lingering goodbyes right outside my house, all recorded by her as sweet memories. They shamelessly enjoyed the time stolen from me, indulging in the thrill of taboo, without a hint of regret or cessation. Elaine Lin hid secrets, savored guilty pleasures, but also endured grievances, and even remembered me. I felt my scalp tingle, amazed that she was simultaneously caring for me and secretly entwined with my man. From what I saw in that timeline, their clandestine relationship began a few months ago. Thinking back carefully, that was when I started having noticeable pregnancy reactions, sometimes losing control of my emotions, arguing with Chris Chu over small things, and even crying. But he was always tolerant, understanding that I didn't mean it, and often conceded to me. I once thought I had found a wonderful man, it turned out he was just finding another outlet for his pent-up emotions. I don't know why the two of them became entangled when they used to be like fire and water, even refusing to look at each other. One was the man who deeply loved me, like the morning sun, always proud of me. The other was the woman who understood me best, who had been by my side since childhood, like the gentle moon of the night. They had hidden it too well from me, and this betrayal caused me even more pain. Waves of heartburn and nausea surged up, I couldn't help but throw up all the late-night food Chris Chu had cooked for me. Chris Chu is a very light sleeper, hearing the noise, he immediately ran over. Seeing the phone tightly clutched in my hand, he was clearly panicked. He stepped forward to grab my hand, intending to help me up, but I forcefully pushed him away, making him stumble. Amy, what's wrong? Get out! I screamed, startling him. I looked at Chris Chu again, noticing he was still as handsome as ever, just a little tired, but more than that, there was panic. I felt so unfair, only I had to endure the heavy body, changing figure, uncontrolled emotions, and discomfort all over. Why could Chris Chu be free, dashing, always comfortably indulging in new embraces? All the suppressed feelings of grievance, discomfort, and exhaustion from my pregnancy suddenly overwhelmed me. I broke down, tears uncontrollable, flowing down bitterly and humiliatingly. Chris Chu still seemed to hold a sliver of hope. Amy, are you feeling unwell? Should I take you to the hospital? He tried to ignore the fact that I had looked at his phone. For the first time, I looked at him with eyes full of hatred, as if I wanted to tear out his heart, liver, and lungs to see why they had changed like this. Little monster and soccer, is it beautiful? As soon as I finished speaking, my stomach churned again, and I couldn't control the nausea. It's strange, Chris Chu and Elaine Lin were always at odds, only when watching soccer could they reconcile, and I wasn't interested in soccer. Both loved the Argentine national team, soccer was the only opportunity for them to talk a little more, and now it had unexpectedly become my nightmare. You've seen everything? Chris Chu's eyes immediately reddened. He knelt on one knee, looking up at me. His gaze was complex, both humble and with a hint of relief at being discovered. But I couldn't let him feel relieved. I slapped him hard across the face, then another one, making his left cheek red and his right cheek gradually swell. He didn't dare to stop me, and I didn't want to stop either. They didn't stop hurting me, so why should I hold back? Is this what a person can do? You two were secretly together behind my back, then pretended to dislike each other in front of me. Aren't you tired? I didn't want my voice to choke, but I couldn't help it. I knew that the moment I uttered these words, from then on, I would lose the two most important people in my life. I ignored Chris Chu's calls, stumbled back to the room holding my belly, picked up my phone, and immediately called my mother, telling her to come pick me up right away. I didn't want to see Chris Chu for another minute. I would never forgive him. Even if the baby in my womb might prevent a complete break, I could raise the child myself and cut ties with this man. Chris Chu panicked, crying and begging me not to leave. I didn't even want to look at him for another second. Every second made me disgusted. Then you get out, don't appear in front of me again. Chris Chu sobbed, his usual pride and dashing demeanor gone. I'm not going anywhere, Amy, this is our home, my wife is here. You're still carrying my child, where do you want me to go? Amy, I truly made a mistake. Can you give me another chance? I swear I'll never repeat this mistake again. Please, don't harm your health. He still held me tightly, refusing to let go. As we struggled, the doorbell rang. My mother had arrived. Chris Chu went to open the door. My mother saw us in this state and, without a word, slapped him twice. He had no time to react, his face was swollen and unrecognizable. My mother didn't even pack my belongings, she pulled my hand and left immediately. Chris Chu tried to hold me back, but I cut him off with a sentence. Chris Chu, from this moment on, we are officially over. The moment you secretly entangled with Elaine Lin, you should have known this day would come. The elevator descended, we walked out of the complex, and got into the car. My mother didn't say a word, just quietly drove me away from this apartment complex. My body wasn't hurting as much anymore, but the torment in my heart grew more and more painful. When Chris Chu first took me to see this house, he once said that there was a very good kindergarten nearby and that this area had the most beautiful green landscapes. We went shopping for furniture together. From an empty house to a cozy little home, little by little, he and I decorated this place. The cute figurines on the bedroom windowsill, the bowls and plates in the kitchen, the bookshelf full of parenting books I still flipped through daily, the baby stroller Chris Chu assembled with his own hands. I had left too many memories in this house. How could I truly leave it behind? How could I leave without regret when for so many years, he and this house had witnessed our love? But precisely because of that, I had no way back. Chris Chu and Elaine Lin had shattered all my illusions, destroyed all the good things. Tears flowed into my mouth, bitter and acrid. Outside the window, the cold wind bent and broke branches, while inside the car, the warmth of the heater couldn't warm my cold heart. We were silent the entire way, until we arrived at my childhood home. My mother helped me into the house. Looking at the travel photo on the shoe rack, me and my mother, beautiful and young, standing by an ancient city wall, without a trace of my father, I completely collapsed. "Mom, I'm sorry." I cried so hard I couldn't breathe, tears falling endlessly. "I didn't listen to you, and I ruined everything. Perhaps in the future, I'll also have to raise my child alone." My mother's eyes were also red. She couldn't maintain her composure anymore. She held my hand but didn't dare to use too much strength. This time, she didn't scold me, just quietly wiped her tears, swallowed her sobs, and comforted me. "You're not wrong, don't worry about anything. It's just one more child, I'll raise them. I have experience." During the days I stayed at my mother's house, she completely put aside her work at the spa to focus on taking care of me. I felt very guilty, but I couldn't show it. I could only rest assured and take care of my pregnancy, trying not to let her worry too much about me. But someone was determined not to let us have peace. Christu went crazy searching for me, begging almost every day. At first, his face was still slightly swollen, clearly indicating my mother's heavy hand. Christu apologized, knelt, and cried. All sorts of dramatic scenes unfolded outside the door, but my mother was unmoved, adamantly refusing to let him into the house. Although the loud commotion attracted attention, my mother wasn't ashamed. The neighbors would know sooner or later. I also didn't care about being gossiped about, because I wasn't the one who made the mistake. Initially, he begged me to come home. Then, every day, he brought me soup, then transferred parenting books, clothes, and pregnancy supplies from our old house to my mother's house, but I didn't look at him once. I felt both bitter and cold. Years of affection couldn't withstand momentary temptation. What was the point of doing all this? He was once a perfect partner, someone I thought I could spend my life with, but now when I think of him, I only see a joke. I suggested divorce, but Christu stubbornly refused, so I had to resort to a lawyer. When he received the agreement, he refused to sign the papers. He knew I was serious, so he sent me countless messages of apology and promises, swearing he would never do anything wrong again. I deleted all those messages without reading them. My mother asked if I had thought it through, if I would regret it later. I wiped my tears, bowed my head, and placed my hand on my belly. This path would be difficult, but I knew I could walk it. Soon, this baby would be born. I was both happy and worried. But this child was all I had meticulously cared for throughout this time. How could I let go? That would be no different from destroying a life. From now on, this would be my child alone. I had only one request, for Christu to stay away, as far as possible from me and our child. Elaine Lynn also came a few times, but each time my mother sent her away. My mother's affection for Elaine had turned into an equal measure of disdain. One time, as my mother and I were getting ready to go to the hospital, Elaine Lynn insisted on blocking our way to apologize. She sobbed, looking truly pitiful, only short of kneeling. Seeing people around starting to record with their phones, my mother, fearing a scene that would cause trouble for the hospital, reluctantly agreed to talk at a coffee shop on the first floor. I remained silent, curious to hear how Elaine intended to apologize. If it were a stranger, I might not have cared. But with Elaine, I couldn't be indifferent. My feelings for her ran deeper than even for Christu. Elaine Lynn had lost her former aloofness. She said she was an unforgivable wretch, and her biggest mistake was losing control and hurting me. "If you want us to come here just to hear these meaningless words, then can we leave now?" The damage was done, words no longer held any meaning. I didn't want my emotions to fluctuate too wildly, fearing it would affect the baby in my womb, so I pulled my mother's hand to stand up and leave. Elaine Lynn panicked, quickly grabbing my hand, but then, afraid of hurting me, she quickly let go. She looked up, her red eyes fixed on me, tears glistening at the corners, and then she slapped herself. She was afraid I would leave, her face full of pleading. Amy, don't you want to know how I fell into Chris Chu's arms? Honestly, I don't want to know. I find it disgusting. But what I don't understand is, you two never got along before, so how could you secretly do something like that behind my back? Don't tell me the reason is because he wasn't satisfied. I spoke in one breath, tightly holding my mother's hand. My mother also squeezed my hand tightly, as if telling me I didn't need to be angry. Elaine Lynn shed tears, looking very distraught. Amy, you might not believe it, but I've been suffering from severe depression for many years, ever since my parents divorced. After going abroad, my condition worsened. I always wanted to find a chance to tell you, but in those years, you were happy with Chris Chu, and I couldn't bear to ruin your joy. So I quietly sought treatment, taking medication without telling you, thinking everything would be fine. Honestly, from the beginning, I didn't like Chris Chu. I hated his overly principled nature, and I felt even more that he had stolen you from me. You were no longer my only best friend. I couldn't monopolize your time, nor did I want to bother you with negative things. I couldn't release my emotions, and so my condition worsened. After I transferred to the new company, working on the same project as Chris Chu, I realized I had been too hostile towards him. Chris Chu listened to you and treated me very kindly. One time, we were on a business trip. During dinner with a client, one of the clients deliberately harassed me, spilling wine on my lap and continuously touching me. I was forced to drink too much and couldn't resist. Chris Chu rushed in and hit that guy, causing quite a scene. That night, we were both drunk. Perhaps I had been lonely for too long, sad for too long, and lost control due to the alcohol, so I couldn't restrain myself and something happened with him. At first, we were both very regretful. I thought about confessing my mistake to you, kneeling to beg for forgiveness, but I was too weak. I started to greedily enjoy the feeling of him caring for me, paying attention to me, just like he did for you. Chris Chu said he was afraid that if you knew, it would harm your health, so we promised each other that we would wait until the baby was born to confess, and no matter what, we would try our best to beg for your forgiveness. But we couldn't stop. One mistake led to another, sinking deeper and deeper into the abyss. I'm so sorry, Amy, I truly made a mistake. You can hit me, scold me, but please don't abandon me, okay? I only have one friend, you, and I'm truly more afraid of losing you than Chris Chu. My mother suppressed her anger, listened to the entire story, and finally couldn't hold back anymore. She picked up the glass of water on the table and threw it directly into Elaine Lynn's face, but didn't say a single word to her. As for me, I didn't realize when I had started crying. I felt heartbroken for Elaine Lynn's depression, for her lonely days abroad, and for her being harassed by the client. She was my best friend since childhood, how could I not feel pain? But could those things become reasons for them to betray me? I felt exhausted, signaling to my mother that we could go home. Elaine Lynn finally collapsed, sobbing, trying to hold me back, but my mother pushed her hand away. She looked up at me, her tear-filled eyes blurring the inherent sparkle of her expressive eyes. This woman, this face, how could it suddenly become so unfamiliar? I didn't hesitate to slap her. This was the slap she owed me. But she owed me too much, and I no longer wanted to give her a chance to repay it. My due date was approaching, and my mother and I finally had a few peaceful days. But then Chris Chu's mother came looking for me. She heard that Chris Chu and I had broken up, so she came all the way from the countryside to plead for her son. My mother, considering that she also had it difficult, didn't kick her out immediately. She told me to go into the bedroom and not come out, then poured Chris Chu's mother a cup of tea, but didn't act friendly. I heard them talking in the living room, their voices growing louder and louder. Then, it seemed my mother-in-law started crying, her voice choked. I heard her say that Chris Chu didn't have it easy earning money at the company, that he had sacrificed a lot for this family, and that he truly knew he was wrong now. She begged me to forgive him. She also said that all men make mistakes sometimes, and all married couples have their squabbles, but in the end, they still reconcile in the same bed. Hearing this, I couldn't hold back anymore. I was so angry I couldn't believe my ears. I walked out of the bedroom, unable to believe what I had just heard. I'm not as generous as you. I can't forgive your son's mistakes. Not in this lifetime. My mother-in-law saw my big pregnant belly, and a complex expression appeared on her face, a mix of joy and sadness. She quickly brought 2 boxes of specialties from the entrance into the house, her humility tinged with a hint of coercion. Amy, I will definitely discipline Chris Chu strictly, but look, your belly is so big. What will happen if the baby is born without a father? Your mother raised you alone before, it was very difficult. You can't let yourself be like that too. These words made my mother even angrier. My daughter will live well even without your son, no need for you to be here telling her what to do. When you're done talking, take your things and go, we don't need them. The 2 of them pushed and pulled, a sight that annoyed me. I was about to tell them to stop so I could have some peace, when suddenly, a sharp pain shot through my abdomen. I groaned, and cold sweat began to pour out. My mother stopped arguing with my mother-in-law and quickly ran to my side. In-law, it looks like she's about to give birth, let's take her to the hospital quickly. At this moment, the most important thing was the baby in my womb. Everyone was worried about me, no one paid attention to the argument anymore. My mother drove, and the 3 of us went straight to the hospital. To give birth in such circumstances was truly too humiliating. On the way, my mother-in-law tried to call Chris Chu, but I was in too much pain to think about anything else, and I didn't care. As I was pushed into the delivery room, I seemed to see Chris Chu's figure. If it were before, how much I would have wished for him to be by my side. Even if he couldn't share the pain, at least my heart wouldn't be as empty and sorrowful as it was now. I prayed for the baby to be born safely. But could a child without a father live happily? My mind became chaotic, and the pain made me think wildly. The intense pain during childbirth was truly something I would never forget. Many times, the pain was so unbearable that I felt like I couldn't take it anymore, even wishing to die. But for my child, I couldn't give up. I had to overcome this pain. I don't know how long it had been, I was exhausted to the point of almost fainting until I heard the faint cry of my child. The nurse came to me, offering congratulations. The baby weighs 3.3 kilograms, it's a boy. The pain subsided, and I was so tired I couldn't even open my mouth to speak. Before closing my eyes, in a blurry moment, I saw Chris Chu run in, his face full of worry, just like when he proposed to me, both panicked and joyful. When I woke up, only my mother was in the room. She said the nurse had taken my son to bathe him, and Chris Chu and my mother-in-law had gone with them. My mother, out of love for me, stayed to take care of me. As soon as she saw me open my eyes, she cried. She said childbirth was like walking through the gates of death, then asked if I was still in pain, if I was tired. I also couldn't hold back my tears, they silently streamed out, soaking my pillow. My mother wiped her tears, trying to sound lighthearted. From now on, it'll just be the 3 of us, you and me and the baby. Are you scared, my daughter? I cried as I answered, weakly but firmly, with you here, Mom, I'm not scared. Chris Chu brought our son into the room. When he pushed the door open, his eyes still held a smile, but seeing me crying, he immediately retracted his smile, rushing to carry the baby closer to me. Amy, look at our son, his eyes are so beautiful, just like yours. My mother-in-law also walked over, her face beaming, yes, so beautiful, definitely inherited all the good looks from both parents. Look at my good grandson, so adorable. These words grated on my ears. My mother subtly scoffed, took the baby from Chris Chu's arms, and stood between me and them. I no longer had the strength to pay attention to them, I just leaned into my mother's embrace, looking closely at my son. The baby was so tiny, it was hard to tell who he resembled, but the feeling of this as my child was so magical, making my eyes blur with tears again. To have this child, I had endured too much pain, but joy still filled my heart. 10 months of pregnancy, the baby was once a part of my body, now separated, transformed into the tiny life before my eyes, as if I were living in a dream. But the person who had just carried the baby into the room was the one who had shattered my dream. I looked at Chris Chu. He seemed to understand something and approached, gently calling my wife and saying, "You've worked so hard. "Wife, let me take you home." I truly know I was wrong. From now on, we'll be a happy family, okay? Although these words came too late, I suddenly understood why Elaine Lynn had disliked Chris Chu before. It was because he was too fake, full of hypocrisy. How ironic that I eventually had to see this man's true colors through her. It was truly too sarcastic. My lips were dry and cracked, my throat bitter. I lowered my voice and said, "I'm no longer your wife, and from now on, my son has nothing to do with you." Chris Chu's mother wanted to use the baby to convince me, and Chris Chu cried and pleaded, but my mother was determined to cut off all ties with their family. For the first time, I saw my mother so angry that even I felt scared. The baby screamed in fright, and the hospital room became so noisy that a nurse had to rush in to remind us to quiet down. In the end, both of them had to give in to my mother and were chased out. The road to divorce was long, but first, I needed to recover my health. After I was discharged from the hospital, my mother took me home for my postpartum confinement. She even hired a maid to take care of me. Chris Chu still wouldn't give up, coming on time every day with nutritious soup, but my mother would take it downstairs and give it to the dog. In the evening, he would bring a bouquet of flowers and piles of baby supplies, standing outside the door, not daring to enter. My mother didn't want any of those things, she donated them to the community. The maid just sighed, seeing our family situation, but dared not say much. Lately, I hadn't been sleeping well. I had to wake up many times during the night to feed the baby, and when I did sleep, I had nightmares. Before my son's 1-month birthday, I woke up startled from a nap. In my dream, I saw only blood, and there was no one around. Suddenly, someone pushed me to the ground, scaring me into waking up. When I opened my eyes, it was almost dark. My mother had just walked into the house, and I felt my eye twitching continuously. She said she had just seen Chris Chu downstairs and had scolded him, bringing her anger home. Due to hormonal changes after childbirth, I was very emotional during my confinement, easily angered, and found fault with everything. The recent nightmare made me more confused, and I argued with my mother. "Then don't care about me anymore, okay?" The baby was scared by my words and cried loudly in the bedroom, making the whole house more irritated. The maid tried to comfort him for a long time but couldn't. I went into the room to check on my son and heard my mother close the door and leave. Calming down, I called her. She said she was on her way to the spa because an employee reported trouble. As we spoke, the other end of the line suddenly became noisy, with sounds of men and women, mixed with curses, and the sound of things being broken. Suddenly, I heard my mother scream, and then the phone disconnected. A bad feeling washed over me, my eye twitched even more, my heart beat rapidly and frantically, and an unpleasant sensation surged, making me extremely anxious. I quickly called the spa back, but no one answered after several calls. I continued to call Lin Jiang, an employee close to my mother. It took more than 10 calls before someone finally picked up. I immediately asked about my mother's condition, but there was only a painful shriek on the other end. Lin Jiang also spoke unclearly, her voice trembling and choked. "Boss, the boss, she was stabbed many times, blood, so much blood, the ambulance hasn't arrived yet, please come quickly." I almost collapsed to the ground, my ears ringing, my mind completely blank. In that moment, my world seemed to stop. I didn't care about anything else. I rushed downstairs, not even bothering to put on a coat, running barefoot until one slipper fell off, but I didn't even notice. Behind me, the maid's calls echoed, but I seemed to hear nothing. Chris Chu hadn't left yet, his car was parked right in front of the building. Seeing me rush out in a panic, he immediately ran to catch me. The cold wind cut at my skin, painful enough to make tears stream down my face endlessly. I couldn't speak. Just now, I didn't wait for the elevator, but ran straight down the stairs, so fast that my stomach cramped, and my legs felt like jelly. When Chris Chu supported me, I couldn't help but collapse. He asked me what had happened, but I could only utter choked words. My mother. Quickly, take me to the spa." The spa was not far from the apartment complex. The car sped there. As soon as I got out of the car, the scene before me stunned me. Ambulances and police cars had arrived. A police cordon surrounded a gathering crowd. I stumbled out, seeing puddles of blood on the ground. I frantically pushed my way through the crowd. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw my mother lying there, in thin clothes, motionless. My heart ached to the point of suffocation. I screamed at the people around me. "Where's the ambulance? Where's the doctor? Why isn't anyone saving her?" A police officer stepped forward to hold me back, telling me to calm down. He opened his mouth and told me that my mother had stopped breathing. My ears rang again. I vaguely heard the police officer's words, his voice as cold as the December wind, carrying the verdict of a truth I didn't want to believe. I shook my head violently, still wailing. "Why aren't they coming? Why aren't they coming to save my mother?" But my voice gradually weakened, losing all strength. My sanity seemed to snap, from questioning turning into pleading, until I saw them about to pull a white sheet over my mother. I used my body to block them, kneeling desperately on the ground, begging everyone around me, "Please, save my mother, please." Chris Chu threw his coat over me, trying to help me stand up, but he couldn't pull me up. Even the police couldn't drag me away. I just collapsed on my mother, holding her tightly, pressing against her stopped heart, crying heartbrokenly. Around me, people were discussing the perpetrator. The camera sounds from phones rang out. Lin Jiang and other employees said something behind me, and then Chris Chu's voice, but I seemed to hear nothing at all. It was so cold in winter, and my mother was dressed too lightly. I wanted to use my body heat to warm her, hoping she would wake up quickly. Perhaps she was in too much of a hurry, so she fell and couldn't get up. Perhaps it was my fault, because I had said harsh words, making her angry and faint. "Next time, Mom, don't care about me anymore, okay?" Those words were like a curse, and I thought I would never forgive myself for them. Accepting the truth was too difficult. When I stood in the morgue, looking at my mother, cold and pale, I truly realized that she was gone forever. Even though Chris Chu tried everything to win me over, I no longer had the heart to care about him. He tried many times to visit our son, but I flatly sent him away. Elaine Lin continuously changed numbers to call me, but I blocked them all one by one. Compared to losing my mother, her death, what Chris Chu and Elaine Lin had done seemed to no longer matter. During the investigations related to the case, I always maintained a cold attitude, without a hint of softness. When my mother left, I finally became her replica. I kept the anger in my heart, learned to be as tough as my mother, and thanks to that, everything seemed to be resolved much easier. But most of the time, I felt I had lost all motivation to live. Living like a soulless corpse was almost my daily state. Everyone around me worried I would despair, and I myself had once thought of giving up everything, but now I had my son. He was the only remaining family member by my side. For him, I had to try to keep living. Finally, I waited for the day the perpetrator was punished. He confessed to all his crimes. According to the investigation results, he, unsuccessful in pursuing a girl, decided to seek revenge on society and went to the beauty salon where she worked to cause trouble. My mother had confronted him while trying to protect a client, and in a fit of rage, he brutally killed my mother. People said the perpetrator's family also had status. His parents were heartbroken by their son's crime but were still willing to take legal responsibility. Those words seemed to float lightly past my ears, but in my heart, they weighed as heavily as mountains. I wished he could immediately pay for his sins and go to hell. Throughout that period, I lived in a blurred state. Besides cooperating with the police and communicating with lawyers, I also had to take care of the work my mother left behind at the spa. After this major incident, the spa's business plummeted, and I had to deal with employee matters and customer care. I couldn't push all the responsibility of childcare onto the maid either, because now my son was the only motivation helping me overcome difficulties. My son's peace was what I longed for most. Additionally, I also had to figure out how to arrange my return to work. In those dark days, work became a place where I could temporarily breathe a sigh of relief. I was very fortunate to receive the trust of the company's leadership. Director Lou and the entire team were ready to wait for my return. As for the divorce from Chris Chu, it now seemed like a trivial matter. When I first learned the truth, I felt like the sky was falling. But now, looking back, it all seemed like a nightmare. I lived in a hurry, seemingly without anything unusual, but only I knew that in the quiet late nights, I still hid on the balcony and cried silently. Tears soaked my clothes, and sadness weighed heavily in my heart. Sometimes, when holding my son, I would suddenly cry, but then seeing his smile, I couldn't bear to let the tears fall. My son grew bigger each day. I had registered his household registration. I named him Anning Chen, hoping that his future would be peaceful and his life always serene. I took a portrait photo of him, and another of me holding his tiny hand. I placed them next to the photo of my mother and me. This way, it seemed as if our 3 generations were fully reunited. Busy during the day, caring for my son at night, I gradually felt the responsibility of a mother. It's just a pity that my mother is gone. My mother was a strong woman all her life, independent, resilient, always decisive when faced with challenges, and never gave up. Even if she was difficult or nagging, she would forever be the hero in my heart. It's just that I wished so much that she could have been with me a little longer. We promised to rely on each other through these days, so why did she leave me, to depart like that? The investigation concluded, and the perpetrator was sentenced to death with a heavy penalty. Compensation for death, funeral expenses, and other compensations were also about to be settled. With red-rimmed eyes, I handled my mother's funeral, the despair of yesterday now receding. I forced myself to regain composure to bid my mother a complete farewell. At the funeral home, many old clients and friends of my mother came. They hugged me and cried. The bouquets of flowers and condolences brought me immense comfort. Chris Chu insisted on staying with me to watch over the coffin. His eyes were redder than mine, and for the first time, I didn't send him away. In the mourning hall, even with the heater on, I still felt cold, chills kept washing over me. I just wanted to wake my mother up, hear her complain a little more, ask her if she was warm enough. Chris Chu advised me to get some sleep, but I ignored him, trying not to sleep. I was about to ask the maid about my son's situation when I saw an email from Elaine Lin in my inbox. Amy Chen, perhaps this is my last letter, and my final confession. Please read it all. I know I no longer have the right to be by your side, but when I heard about Auntie, I was most worried about you. Do you know, you're actually a crybaby? When you were little, whenever you were hurt, you wouldn't say anything but would quietly cry alone. I knew it all. Also, honestly, I don't like boiled snails and pig intestines at all, but I didn't want to lose my only friend like you. It's a pity that I've truly lost you now. I guess you've cried this time too, right? I hate myself for not being able to be there to comfort you, not being able to face everything with you. I think I am the biggest culprit. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have had to leave home, nor would you have had to endure the pain of childbirth alone, let alone bear all the responsibility of raising a child. Perhaps, Auntie wouldn't have passed away so suddenly either. I don't know if saying this helps you feel any better. After confessing to you, Chris Chu and I completely ended things, and both of us have faced the consequences. He received many complaints from clients, was removed from his project, and is about to be fired, but that happened after I had already resigned. Before I quit, I still went with the project team to entertain clients, but that time we encountered even more vile people. They drugged my colleague, drugged me, and took me to a hotel. When I lay on that bed, I knew no one could come to save me anymore. I was completely defiled, and I think this is God's punishment. My family helped call the police and filed a lawsuit, but every day I could only go crazy in front of them. I couldn't contact you, I had no friends left. My depression worsened, it almost crushed me. I tried to cut my wrists, so they threw away all sharp objects in the house. I took a lot of sleeping pills and was taken to the hospital again for gastric lavage. Don't pity me, these things are my own doing. From the moment I hurt you and Auntie, I knew I wouldn't have a good end. When you read this email, I might already be on a flight to Country M. After several unsuccessful attempts at death, my parents decided to send me to a rehabilitation facility there. Actually, from beginning to end, Chris Chu was always your Ultraman, and I was just the destructive monster who deserved to be defeated and chased away. I will disappear on my own, never to bother you again. It's just a pity that I never got to meet my godchild, but I guess he must be very handsome, perhaps with eyes like yours. Auntie watched you and me grow up from childhood, like a second mother to me, and I have been too guilty towards her. I will go to hell, and I hope Auntie will rest in peace in heaven. Finally, Amy Chen, can you cry a little less? Without me, this terrible friend, your life will surely be much brighter. I once hated Elaine Lin, and I also blamed her, but she didn't deserve such a tragic fate. Those despicable bastards were the ones who deserved to go to hell. I don't know what Chris Chu would think if he knew these things. The lingering sadness, like a shroud of night, enveloped me. I stayed awake all night, sitting until dawn. I wiped my face, knowing it was time to send my mother for cremation. Watching my mother's body being pushed inside, my heart ached so much I couldn't even cry out loud anymore. I remember when I was young, shortly after moving to City B, my father passed away, but his passing was so distant, so far that I no longer clearly remember the sadness of that time. When I was a child, the pain seemed much less. As long as I could play and mess around with Elaine Lin every day, life felt much less heavy. But now, with my mother also leaving me, I felt like the sky had fallen. My whole world shattered, I truly lost my family. The joy, the comfort of childhood, would never return. I leaned on Chris Chu's shoulder, sobbing uncontrollably. I swore this would be the last time I leaned on him. Because this pain was too intense, suffocating me so I couldn't breathe. When I held the small urn of ashes in my hand, I comforted myself. Look, Mom will still come back to me. Witnessing my mother's cremation, the last of my strength drained away. But I knew I had to stand up, had to take care of everything. Now I needed to return to my son. Chris Chu wanted to come along, but I refused. My mother was gone, Elaine Lin almost gone too. Life was truly impermanent, and Chris Chu and I should end things here. Thank you for being here with me to see my mother off, but this is it. I have no more strength to say anything else to you. From now on, don't come looking for me. Let's get divorced. Chris Chu looked up, gazing deeply at me. I could feel the light in his eyes had completely dimmed, faint and gloomy. I also clearly saw the bloodshot in his eyes, that wasn't fake. He paused for a few seconds, tears silently falling. His face, changed over the months, was no longer the image of the man I once loved. Finally, he accepted the truth in a soft, choked voice. All right. Take care of yourself, Amy Chen. This lifetime, I owe you. The story between Chris Chu and me finally closed. He left with nothing. My son stayed with me, the house also belonged to me, and I didn't need his savings. The economy was difficult, I heard his old project team was disbanded, and he was also laid off. But all of that no longer concerned me. When Anning Chen was 6 months old, my boss, Ms. Liu, invited me to talk. She said the company was opening a new branch in City C and asked if I wanted to lead the team there. When my mother passed away, she also attended the funeral, knowing everything that happened in my family but not offering too many words of comfort. She just hoped that after I dealt with family matters, I would quickly refocus on work, as there were still many projects waiting for me. I remember she left one sentence at that time. Nothing is too important. Life is just a series of dreams, beautiful dreams or nightmares, you'll eventually wake up. Now, it seemed this dream was finally coming to an end. I decided to take Anning Chen to City C. After receiving all the compensation for my mother's death, I finished dealing with the spa and the 2 houses. I also sold Chris Chu's house. All unnecessary belongings, I donated. I wanted to leave this place with my son, Anning Chen, as lightly as possible. Since childhood, I had been like a rootless child, lost in City B for so many years, and now I couldn't go back to City B either. I came here burdened, and now I left feeling light. The plane took off, landing in City C 3 hours later. Ms. Liu had contacted Ms. Yi, a local partner, to pick me up at the airport. I held my son and called her. While getting the luggage, I coaxed Anning Chen to watch the suitcase spinning on the conveyor belt. He smiled brightly, happy, innocent, and carefree. Suddenly, I heard a phone ringing nearby. It was the familiar song Ultraman. I don't need you to save the world. I know you also have sad moments. It's just that they don't understand. Perhaps we won't be together forever. But I will fly to your galaxy. Then send you my greetings. It felt like everything belonged to a previous life. My thoughts suddenly returned to when I was 18 or 19, when Chris Chu and I argued heatedly over a small detail in a plan. We were too young, ignorant of the world, confronting even the school. For that event, we flew together to the sponsor city to negotiate, the speeches at the award ceremony, the hustle and bustle in the KTV, it all seemed like it just happened yesterday. But that youth, full of hope and recklessness, was gone forever. I didn't realize I was crying. Little Anning Chen reached out and touched my face, unconsciously wiping away my tears. Looking at his smile, I brushed aside my wandering thoughts. After collecting the luggage, I carried my son through the security gate. The airport announcement echoed. Please continue moving, do not stop here. The end.